Seeing and hearing how others improve and grow is part of the process of increasing your own sales. Each week, Eric Lofholm interviews one of his students to showcase their success and the significant impact it's had on their life. Learn how people just like you have applied what they've learned in Eric's course and the success they've experienced as a result. This is the CSI Case Study Podcast with Eric Lofholm.
Hi, this is Eric Lofholm. I want to welcome you to another great podcast. This is our continuous sales improvement case study podcast. And I have another one of my outstanding clients, Eric Edelman, is with us here today. Eric, how are you today?
I'm great. How's it going, Eric?
Really good. So do you remember what year it was when I met you and Dava?
I believe it was 2004.
Yeah, we go way back. And if my memory serves me, I came to your office and did a little talk, and both you and your wife were there. You heard what I had to say.
Yes.
You joined the protege program. And so take us back to 2004. What was going on in your real estate career at that point?
Sure. Well, in 2004, my wife and I, Dava and I, were just recently licensed. I think we earned our licenses in 2003 and then went searching for a broker. We both had normal jobs here in San Diego at that time. I was working in the GIS, GPS industry, and Dava was in biotech. So we were both, professionals here in San Diego, and we had sort of gotten fed up with that lifestyle, I guess, and it really didn't take long. We got out of college and moved to San Diego and started working in 2001. And by 2003, we were done with that. We just couldn't sit still in an office for 8 hours a day, or Dava in a lab. And it was more me than her. I came home one night with an armload full of real estate books, and she said, what are you up to? And I said, well, I want to get my real estate license and quit my job. And we didn't have children at the time, so that wasn't such a wild statement, I guess, but it was pretty radical given that we'd just recently gotten our college degrees. But she, to my surprise, said, well, hey, if you get to quit your job, then so do I. So we studied and got our licenses together. And it would take a few minutes to tell the story of exactly how we wound up in that office in Carmel Mountain Ranch, San Diego, where we still live. But that in itself is an interesting story. But we joined McMillan Realty here in Carmel Mountain Ranch, and we didn't have children at the time. We were very involved in just getting to know the real estate business and how to find leads and generate transactions and get paychecks. And we were doing, reasonably well at that time. We had no fear, which was it's something that I always try to come back to, that place of being brand new and having no fear, not thinking that calling for sale by owners is something that's difficult or challenging. It just sounded like, wow, there's a person that's easy because they're saying they want to sell their house and they don't have an agent. They're raising their hand. To me, that just made sense at the time. Anyway, we were very involved with the office and all the trainings that would happen there. And Mike Marmion, our manager, brought you in for a training, and we connected pretty immediately. We're both about the same age. We're both named Eric. I liked what I was hearing from you in terms of teaching sales skills, because I had none at the time. They don't teach you these things in school at all. In elementary school, in high school, in college, you don't really learn sales skills at all. So, I was just sort of flying by the seat of my pants at that time and learning this. I think you did a presentation on the sales mountain. And I was like, yes, the sales mountain, it makes sense. So I was eager to learn more, and we joined at least a couple of your seminars before Platinum Protege, and I think we did one of Dr. Moyne's seminars with you, and it was just we got really into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that point, I think you were in your first year of being agents.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
we
then I
were.
remember, I think it was your early second year, you had really been applying a lot of what I was teaching you and where, what you were learning maybe from Mike or other agents. And you had
Yep.
a 5 deal closes in 1 month, and you guys
Yeah.
got agent of the month. And
Yeah, we were right.
yeah,
That's right. We really were, we really wanted that agent of the month parking spot
right.
in front of the office. Every and that's sort of, I don't know. You don't see that so much in the real estate industry anymore. People are more remote and virtual, especially during COVID. But back then it was pretty traditional still. They had a real estate sign in front of the office that was just, for the agent of the month. And if you were the agent of the month, you got your rider on top of the sign, and that's where you got to park. And we wanted that. That was something that we absolutely aspired to. And it didn't take us too long really to get there. And that was when we really, we were coming into our own, I guess, as agents, and being recognized for that was important to us.
Yeah, and as I remember, this was either at the end of your first year or the very beginning of your second year. And in real estate, it's pretty common thought, don't expect to make a lot of money your first year as a real estate agent. And especially with you guys,
Right.
you were brand new agents. You didn't have the background. You'd quit your other jobs. And yet,
Yeah.
in the end of your first year, early second year, 5 deals in 1 month. As I remember, it was, over 30,000 in commissions for that month. And
That was a good month.
And I also remember that the parking lot that your real estate office was in was also a shared parking lot with Costco. So parking was really at a premium. So that spot was valuable.
Yes, it was. And I go to that Costco all the time still. And, as just a testament to how things have changed, that office space is now the Costco Tire Center. So no longer a real estate office, but I can't drive by there without, in my mind, I still see the agent of the month space, and I always go back in my mind to that time when I drive by there.
Now, then you and David, you guys stepped up. You went to my highest level program, which is the Platinum Protege program, which I don't remember exactly how much you paid. It was probably around $5,000 investment. It's not a small investment.
No,
was that a big decision for you guys?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, come on. That was, I mean, even now that's still a lot of money, but back then in 2005, just with the mindset that we had, coming out of employment where you're earning maybe about that much money every month, and your bills are about that much. It was a big commitment.
Yeah. And what do you remember about making that decision? Like, what was it that motivated you to say, you know what, I want to really operate at this level in this training program? Do you remember anything about that?
Well, I just remember thinking, okay, if we can get to this level of production, we owe it to ourselves to become more educated in just the nuts and bolts of the sales process, and thinking about strategy and tactics, and just getting more sophisticated with how we're running our business and generating our leads. And, this $5,000 investment, is a drop in the bucket compared to, if we apply these things, we come up with a goal to add, 5 new transactions the following year, for instance, that represents more like, $50,000. So the 5,000 is a reasonable investment, it seemed at the time, even though it was still a big decision and a big commitment.
Yeah. And let's talk about increased income. I asked you this over Facebook the other day. If you go back from the day we met to now, you learn a good idea, you have the benefit of it for the rest of your life. And so
Yeah.
So just your best estimate, realistic, how much additional income do you think you've made implementing the things that you've learned from me?
It has to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, that it has to be. And it's all now so ingrained in how I'm interacting with clients that, I don't even realize when I'm applying, things that I learned back then. But it has to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars when I look at, what would I have earned just muddling through the way I was versus, getting some legitimate training and just not only the nuts and bolts sales training, but thinking about your mindset and weaving tactics together to create a strategy. All of this stuff was what I still remember from Platinum Protege. And I still have the CDs
Mm-hmm.
that dates us because I have the plastic clamshell thing with the
Right.
CDs in it, and I've actually transferred those to they're already digital, but
MP3
cloud
or something.
format that I
Mm-hmm.
can. Yeah, I can Bluetooth them into my car radio from the cloud, which is I mean, even just saying that sounds so futuristic, but here we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those basic ideas still motivate me.
Yeah. And
They
one
still
thing that's
motivate me.
interesting about you and I is that I ended up hiring you and your wife to sell my house. And
Yes,
you guys sold my house, I think, in 9 days. I think we got the full price. And but what's also interesting is I contacted you and said, "Hey, I'm looking to sell my house. Would you guys like to come over and interview for the listing?" Which you did. But that didn't happen by accident. It wasn't random that I had contacted you. You had, intentionally prospected me, put me on your list, and you were marketing to me with postcards. And at that time, you guys were relatively new agents, and I knew a lot of agents because still am a trainer and knew a lot of top agents, people that had more experience. Now you've got all the experience, but back then you were relatively new. Yet
that's true.
I hired you guys. So what gave you the confidence to prospect me and did you have that kind of visualize that, at some point he's going to be our client?
Oh yeah. I mean, that was our mindset at the time was, basically anybody. And I think this is something we learned from you, I'm pretty sure, where you follow the money essentially. If you're using somebody's service or business, then you should absolutely be putting your service or business in front of them, not necessarily in an obnoxious way, but we were learning from you, ideas about prospecting for business, and we added you to our probably a postcard farm at that time, maybe a drip email. I don't even know if we were on drip email back then, but it was intentional. We had the intention of either receiving referral from you or, someday, you being the dynamic and successful sales coach that you are, someday he's going to upgrade his house. So obviously we should be, prospecting him. And absolutely, when we got that call from you, it was a surprise in a way, but at the same time, it was something that we had visualized previously. So yes.
Yeah. And what's nice is, I don't know the exact commission you got on that house, but I'm pretty sure it was more than the $5,000 you had invested in Platinum. So it came back to you in this other way you were never expecting. And that's what happens.
Right.
The universe rewards people who take action differently than those who don't. And had you not joined Platinum, I guess it's still possible I would have used you, but unlikely. And so it's kind of neat when things like that happen. And then there's another time that I remember I was getting ready to teach a seminar, and I've told the success story of you and Dava for years because you guys have done so fantastic with what I've shared. And so I called you. It was like a Friday night about 9:00 at night. And I called you up to get the updated success story. And do you remember that conversation?
Refresh my memory on that one.
I'm like, Eric, it's Eric Lofholm. I'm teaching a seminar tomorrow. Yeah. I just want to make sure I have the most current version of your success story. And you're like, right. There is no updated success story. And I said, well, what do you mean? And you go, things aren't good right now. And I said, what's going on? And instead of me getting a success story, it turned into a coaching call. And you were sharing with me, like, the market at that time, something was going on in the San Diego real estate market, and the market was down. And so it was affecting how you were feeling because, look, it's the industry. And so I was like, if the market's down, you need to be playing at a 7, 8, 9, or a 10. and I was like giving you this pep talk about, look, as you know, the culture of Eric Lofholm International is play at a 7, 8, 9, or 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. And so I was like, hey, if the market's down, this is the time. And something clicked in you, and it kind of like snapped you out of that like funk. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, yeah, that was interesting. I do now because I mean we've had a couple of these touch base contacts over the years, but that one in particular, I believe, was probably in the late 2007, early 8, or maybe even into 2008 timeframe. I mean, we had learned a certain way of being in the real estate market that was working. 2004, 2005, 2006. And then towards the middle of 2006, this formula stopped working. And kind of like a deer in the headlights at that point, it's like, what the heck is going on? Because the tactics and the overall strategy was, get listings, because listings are selling. And, in 2006, we wound up holding the bag on probably 7 or 8 listings that weren't selling. And this was like mind blowing to us. And I believe we were still in the same office at the time. And Mike was still our manager, and he was like, well, you got to ask for a price reduction. And I'm like, a what? Price reduction? Why would I ask for that? Because the market was changing, and we didn't have the savvy to really see where things were going and look out, 2 or 3 months and counsel our sellers properly, and on and on and on. So yes, that pep talk from you was key, because what we did at that point was, and you told me something that you'd heard from another agent, or you have a story that you tell about another agent. And I'm sure you remember her name. I don't, but the gist of it was, buyers are buying and sellers are selling, and nothing else really matters. And so I was like, aha, okay. So what sellers are selling and what buyers are buying, and then it what it was turning into was buyers are buying foreclosures and sellers are selling short sales. So figure that one out real fast and get to it. And anytime you get behind the curve in the real estate business, if you're behind the curve, you're probably 3 to 6 months behind. Like that's how quickly things can go rotten very quickly and take 90 to 180 days to turn the ship. So we buckled down and probably burned through a bunch of savings and things I don't even want to think about, but it happened, and we changed tactics. The overall strategy is the same, but we shifted tactics to find these people who were needing to do a short sale. I got certified to do short sales, started marketing that, on and on. And we used one of the tactics that we came up with together, I think, which was basically we had a special phone in our house with one dedicated number, and we were sending out postcards with that phone number on it. And And when that phone rang, we knew in the early days that was the FISBO phone. And then later on, that became the short sale phone. And I still have that same number connected to my Google Voice now. But yeah, when we started picking up listings and turning the ship around that way. And then by, I think, 2009, 10, 11, the market was what experts and general public would call bad, but we were doing well because we had made this shift and adjusted to what was happening, and we're doing deals that way. And by the end of the short sale market, once again, I had a whole bag full of listings and was earning money. And I kind of made the same mistake again in that I didn't shift fast enough when things flipped the other way, but it didn't take me as long to recognize and adjust at that point. So yeah, that was a pivotal moment. And there were times before you and I had that conversation where I was actually thinking about looking for a job, and actually I went on a job interview. I think it was in 2006 at some point, sitting there, and I had only been out of the workforce for 4 years or so at that point, so it was not unthinkable that I could go back. But I was sitting there in this job interview, and this guy was asking me, well, what makes you think you're XYZ company material, Mr. Edelman? And I kind of froze and looked at him, and I said, dude, I'm sorry. I don't want to waste your time, but I'm out of here. And it was just sort of that, like, okay, Eric, you have got to dig deep. Because I was just thinking in that moment about all the potential that there was in the real estate business. And I had seen it already. And I was like, I can't go back. I can't sit in this cubicle for 8 hours a day. I can't, can't is a bad thing to say, but it just isn't the way I'm wired anymore. And I've got to make this the real estate thing has to work, and it will work.
Yeah, I think you said something really key there about digging deep, and that's what we have to do as salespeople, entrepreneurs, business people. Sometimes our formulas, as you said, they stop working. So we got to dig deep and find something inside of us that we haven't accessed before. Are you comfortable sharing your biggest income year that you've ever had as a real estate agent?
Sure. I mean, our best year ever was in 2017, and the gross commission that year was close to $450,000. And then that was just an incredible year. And again, 18 and 19 were not as good. And in fact, I think 18 was not nearly as good. I got to go back and look, but it was, things change a little. You don't adjust, or you get comfortable. And it's been a repeating pattern in my life and our business, where you get somewhere that you set a goal to be, and then you get comfortable, you get complacent. And you get a little burned out, from just the grinding and working. So you want to maybe take your foot off the gas for a minute, but that minute can turn into a couple of months, which, as I already mentioned, when you're a couple of months behind in real estate, you're really more like 3 or 6 months behind. So anyway, fast forward to this time last year. We were coming off, 18 was down, 19 was better, and we were coming off a decent year in 2019, and then COVID. And so immediately everybody's just in a panic. It's over. Real estate is over for the year. Go apply for a PPP loan. Go apply for pandemic unemployment assistance. Stop doing real estate and start, applying for these assistance. And that was definitely something that came to mind, because we were under a stay-at-home order at that point. Like, don't go out and show houses. We were told, withdraw your listings from the market. And that only lasted for about 9 days, but a lot of agents just froze at that point, and that 9 days turned into much longer. But for us, that was it was just a recognition of something. We have got to do something a little different now to make this work. And what we started doing in 2020, right about, well, I guess it was next month, March, I just started reaching out to everybody that was on our past client list. How are you doing? What's going on? How are you coping with this? And inevitably, everybody wants to know, what's this going to do to the real estate market? And I had no idea. My initial thought was, well, it's going to really suck this year. I mean, I can't imagine we're going to sell many houses in this environment. But lo and behold, interest rates plummet, and people are shifting work patterns and needing to move out of condos and into houses. I mean, just all these things are happening. And we had, for once, we were ahead of the curve. We had gotten our marketing and our messaging out there early, and it really paid off in 2020. We did not quite as well as 17, but almost as well. And in a year where, a good chunk of it was taken up with, being locked inside your house, I was full of gratitude and just pride for having turned the corner and having a good year in 2020. And now in early 21, we've got a huge goal this year to do our best year ever. Where our goal this year is for $500,000 in gross closed commission, which will represent roughly $320-ish thousand in gross income to us. And then of course you pay taxes and all the other stuff. And it's just about enough money to to live in San
Right.
Diego. But no, I mean, that would be, I mean, it's when you can do that, when you can gross that, that's going to be a comfortable year. I'm going to be able to help set my son up, who's now 14, and he's just a brilliant kid and looking at colleges already. So, this is on the horizon. So just a lot of, things that we're going to need to do with that income. But I guess the point is you pivot when you have to. And that's the ability to do that, I think, was born out of learning these skills and learning these ideas from you. And what you said earlier about the universe rewarding people who act differently. That's the one thing, if I heard nothing else from you ever, if nothing else ever sunk in, that would be the thing that I would say, let that sink in, because that's the key.
Awesome. As we wrap up, I wanted you to give some advice to two different types of people. So one person is somebody, they're not a client of mine, they're watching this and they're considering, like, they're kind of on the fence, should I, work with Eric's company or not?
Right.
The other person is somebody who's a protege who's thinking about going platinum, which is a decision that you guys made. So what advice would you have for somebody who's not a client, who's thinking about working with my company, or protege who's not platinum yet, who's thinking about taking that next step?
Well, if you're not involved at all, join the conversation. I mean, join the conversation at whatever level you can get in at. If it's, and I'm not aware exactly what that is with Eric Lofholm International right now, but get in the conversation and learn the skills and be willing to act differently than those around you. Don't get sucked into thinking, oh, well, I can't afford that, or that sounds like a lot, because learning these things and applying these things and acting differently than those in the office around you is what's going to propel you forward. And you'll never be sorry that you joined the conversation if you're willing to do and I don't want to say the hard work, because it should be something that you like doing, but willing to put in the time and the effort and the focus.
Excellent. How about for somebody who's already a protege, but they're like, should I go platinum or not? I mean, you guys made that decision and it paid off in a big way. What would you say to that person?
You should. That's what I would say to that person.
Yeah.
you should. If you're already a protege and you're having any kind of success and you're the kind of person that, you're a self-starter, you're putting in the effort, you're focused, you're doing the right things, you should level up and put in, make the investment in yourself to be successful, and at a higher level than you are now. You'll never regret it. You'll never look back.
Fantastic. Well, this was a tremendous interview, Eric. I just love the casual nature of just a dialogue, just a conversation. And it's been great, just knowing you for all these years. And I'm super happy I hired you and Deva to be my real estate agent. You guys were amazing. You're true professionals.
Thank you.
And
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. So that's going to wrap up another edition of the Continuous Sales Improvement Case Study Podcast. Thank you all for watching and listening. Look forward to connecting with all of you on a future episode. Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, make sure and subscribe to get notified of new episodes every week. Or if you're one of my students with a success story you'd like to share, send me an email at eric@ericlofholm.com. And maybe you'll be on my next episode. Until next time, keep on improving.